Hello, I am Jamie Buckland with the West Virginia Few Families United for Education and talking today with my good friend, Senator Patricia Rucker. I'm excited for our audience to get to hear from you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm very excited to be here.
So let's get right into it. I was blessed to get to know you in I think late 2019, maybe, when I kind of got started as the liaison for homeschoolers in Southern West Virginia. But your journey began before that. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got started, even moving to West Virginia and becoming a lawmaker?
Sure. I grew up in Montgomery County, Maryland, and married my husband there. And when they put my firstborn daughter in my arms, I knew I wasn't going to go back to working as a teacher in Montgomery County Public Schools. So we started looking for someplace to move to because there was no way that we could continue living in Montgomery County, Maryland on one salary. So just on weekends, we would travel, follow marketing. And like many people in the Eastern Panhandle, we discovered the Eastern Panhandle, West Virginia, and fell in love with it. And we moved here in 2000, and we built our house on the top of the Blue Ridge Mountains. And there I've been raising my 5 children, have a little hobby farm. I enjoyed being a stay-at-home mom and was mostly focused on my children for most of the years that they were growing up. Some people have heard my story. I ended up homeschooling my children, even though I had never dreamt of it, and I just thought they would go to public like I did. But unfortunately, I was disappointed with the local public school system and their lack of flexibility and options. And I had not one, not two, but 3 children that had issues. You can call it special needs, you can call it delays,
Sure.
but the point is they needed something different. And the options at the local school system was so limited. I mean, I don't even want to go into all that, but I ended up homeschooling even though I didn't want to. And I ended up loving it. And like so many people who think I cannot possibly teach my own kids, I realized that I can do anything with God's grace and help, and that my children are much more resilient than I gave them credit
Right.
for. And I've been very blessed. I have graduated 4 out of the 5. And just this year, for the first time, one of my children is going to something other than homeschooling, and that is my youngest. She is attending the Eastern Panhandle Preparatory Academy, which is the new charter school that just opened in the Eastern Panhandle.
Which is so exciting. My work in getting to know you really revolved around that SSAC access. And so my 11-year-old Elsie next year will have her first year of eligibility as a homeschooler to get to compete with the WVSSAC. And I'm excited for that because I'll get to see my child benefit from this investment in work. So let's kind of transition to that. Your child now is getting to benefit from the work that you were very instrumental in, even getting charter schools as an option here in West Virginia. So when were you first elected in as a lawmaker?
I was elected in 2016, and I became a state senator representing all of Jefferson County and part of Berkeley. That's the 16th district. And I knew I was going to be more passionate about education than anything else. So I was very happy I got put on the education committee from the very beginning of my
Okay.
Yes, and yes, you're absolutely right. It is. I never thought I would benefit in any way from the school choice things I've been pushing for, but I'm really grateful that that option was available for us.
Yeah. And so we saw a lot of options over just the last couple of years. I tell people we went from public private home to Hope Scholarship, charter school, learning pod, micro school. So can you just talk a little bit about how all of this coming together kind of started with this vision to just maybe add some options? Did you really think that we would be at the point where we are with so many options in such a short time?
Well, it has been an amazing experience and journey. No, I never really thought it would happen this fast, but I will tell you, I'm a very impatient person, is one of my faults. And I think anyone who has watched me as a legislator can sense that I'm just not satisfied with little things. We have so much that we need to fix in the state of West Virginia. To me, it's like you do the most you possibly can do. And that has really been my attitude as a legislator, but then as education chair, to be given that opportunity by my colleagues in the Senate was just humongous because I care so much. And folks make the accusation that if you support school choice, it means you're anti-public school. I have never seen it that way. I came from
Hmm.
Montgomery County Public Schools, where charter schools have been around for over 40 years. And the public schools are thriving, and they're some of the best in the entire nation. There is absolutely something about competition, about giving parents choices. And when you as a parent or student make a choice and invest in that choice, you become more involved in making certain that you're getting the best out of that choice you made. So I, as a public school student in Montgomery County, was accepted into two charter schools during my years there. I ended up not going. I didn't attend them. I decided to stay in my local public school district and just get super involved and get as much as I could out of that school. And I feel I had a great education, but a lot of it had to do with my investment, my personal, this is where I want to be. When you don't give people a choice, when folks have no choice, but I can't afford anything but this one choice, then what happens is it's more like they take it for granted. They don't feel like there's
Hmm.
any involvement on their part. And so really, like, just coming from that background helped me to greatly see the benefits to West Virginia to introducing choice. But then on top of it, my own experience with my special needs students and emails and phone calls that I received as education chair from constituents and people from all around the state with absolutely heartbreaking stories. Situations that were not necessarily the fault of the public school system, but the system cannot handle every unique circumstance under the sun. You cannot expect, any system,
Right.
whatever it is, to be able to be malleable to every scenario and situation. There has always been students who didn't fit in and who didn't get what they needed. And teachers who are honest will tell you that. They will admit it to it. It's like it
Right.
breaks their heart that they cannot stop everything for their class of 25 kids because the one kid needs some more attention or needs you to slow things down or
Right.
teach the subject in a different way. So the folks, especially the students at the very top of the spectrum and at the very bottom of the spectrum. So, it's not a question of just one set of students.
Sure.
They really need, like, they need some options. And then you
Yeah.
talk about the students with disabilities, with special needs, students with incredible talents who like want to be Olympic sport athletes. They have grueling schedules, and the public school hours just does not work for what they
Yep.
have to do for training. There's circumstances you can come up with. And not to mention the fact that as much as I've tried to make the public schools more innovative, I've pushed for more local control. There's just not a lot of interest in most of the public schools in
Hmm.
the state to, just offer more innovative choices to kind of go outside the box.
Right.
Um,
And I think we're going to see now, because of this work that, largely, to be quite honest, that you began with this vision to really shift things up and change things up. When I think about being a parent in West Virginia, I think for many years, I've been homeschooling 15 years. In the beginning, it was like, you looked around and you thought, well, here's this co-op. I could join this co-op. But then shortly thereafter, I started a program, and we partnered with the YMCA to offer a gym and swim program. It was, you can't look around and wait for someone else to provide opportunity in the state of West Virginia, because if you're waiting for someone else to provide it, it's going to be a long wait. And I think as you're sharing, it reminded me, I often say, how hard should it be if this system isn't serving my needs? How hard should it be to figure out the alternative, to find another option, to do something that could benefit our children? And I think that's what this work is doing. And I think that's what we're going to see as we begin to paint a picture of different learning environments that are successful and sustainable. I think we will start to see this really take root. And I mean, you and I have talked often. We feel like this will be the transformation of K-12 education. Hope Scholarship with charter schools, the way this is going to support families and give them that purchasing power to make the decision.
That's
So all that being said, what's now? So let's talk a little bit about implementation and kind of how you see the implementation of maybe the charter board being able to work alongside the charters and authorize new charters, or for those of us on the ground, what do you see implementation looking like in these next couple of years?
Well, that's a great question because, you can pass legislation, but then comes the tricky part, which is actually implementing it and making certain that it gets implemented in the best manner possible. Will tell you, I have learned on the job that step is actually very, very important. And it's one of the reasons for why I really urge people to pass Amendment 4, which will be on your ballot in November, because the policies that are drafted by the State Board of Education is supposed to be basically the rules to implement what you pass regarding education. And by not having any actual power to change those policies, other than to make suggestions, offer hints that you don't like what they're doing, they essentially can make a program harder or easier. They can make it where it will never get implemented because parents will be like, there's no way, I'm not going through that many steps. Or they can make it where it's actually a viable option. And I know that you interviewed Jason and you gave a great example. I will tell you, like, one example that I remember with charter schools was, we put something in the law that was very clear what we wanted, which was that anybody that's going to be having access to to the students in a charter school should have a background check on them. But we referred to another section of code when we did that. Well, that reference to that other section of code was interpreted by somebody in the State Department of Education that reference meant they could then apply all the different criteria that they have for public school teachers to charter school teachers. And all we were doing was saying, no, we want them all to have background checks. So those type of, miscommunications, if you want to get the most positive light, they really make a big difference. Because if the whole idea of charter schools is that they can do things that are innovative and different, and they can establish different policies for their hiring that really reflect a change from the public schools, so that parents can choose, do they prefer that or they prefer what the public schools, demand. You don't have that option really if you're going to make them all the same. Right. So those are the type of things so those policies are just super, super, super important. Amendment 4, I consider, and I am biased, the most important amendment that we get through. And one of the things that I've learned is to be as clear as possible in legislation, so there's no wiggle room, and to also try to establish a system for accountability from the parents and the people participating as much as possible. So that's why, that's actually where the idea came from in the Hope Scholarship, that we created a Hope Scholarship board that had to have at least 2 parents as part of that board, so that when there's problems, when there's unintended consequences, when the policies are written and regular, ordinary parents can't understand or can't follow through, you have representation that says, this isn't working, we need to change.
And the open communication is what I have appreciated so much, as being this parent advocate on the ground, kind of tasked with engaging families and doing this grassroots movement and being sure that families know what their options are, and then have access to someone that can help talk them through that. But part of open communication, I feel like, for the lawmaker, is to be engaged with someone like me on the ground, so that when we're coming up against some issues, we're able to communicate that back to the people that really have the power to do something about it. So that kind of working relationship, when I reflect on the work that we've done, I feel like is very unique when I look at other people's stories. So I want to thank you for being a good listener. I think that's a very unique quality that you have when it comes to part of this work, because it really does take a whole team. It takes a village to figure this stuff out and to make sure that it is implemented well. So what can we expect? What's coming up? What do you see in 2023 happening? What should we be looking out for past Amendment 4? What do you see coming up?
Well, I have to at least give a little compliment back after that compliment you gave me, because I have to say it's been a pleasure to work with you. I love your frankness, and you immediately reach out and let us know when you're hearing of concerns, questions, somebody didn't understand this, and you seek the answer so that then you can help educate others. I have to say that the work that you're doing is absolutely priceless and so needed. And if I could, hire you, I absolutely would. I will tell you, you're a great advocate for parents and choices, and I'm
Thank
so grateful
you.
for the work you do. And now about the future. If Amendment 4 passes, and I certainly hope it does, I expect that we will establish a procedure in which we look over the policies of the State Board of Education. It will be very similar to the way we already do for all the other agencies in government, because
Right.
everybody has to go through legislative review except for the State Board of Education right now.
Right.
And then I'm not done. I will tell you that I'm very happy that some choices have opened up. But as you have pointed out in some of your conversations you've had this week, it is unfortunate that not every single parent has access to their funds to help educate their children. There are parents like me who have been homeschooling all this time. We don't qualify for Hope Scholarship. Parents who have been making really hard sacrifices and sending their kids to private school, they don't qualify for Hope Scholarship. So, one of two things I would love to see happen. One is that we do open it up to, everyone, if we have the money to do that, because I think that's really the only thing that we really have to worry about. Or I really have had a desire in my heart, and I know that there are other legislators who would like to see us do maybe a tax credit or some sort of refundable tax, some way of getting you your own dollars back,
Right.
or removing some of your tax burden because you are educating your own child and paying for it. So, you essentially, all you West Virginia families who have chosen to homeschool or private school, you are saving the state of West Virginia thousands of dollars. That's a way you could look at it, right? Because you have a choice to go to the public school system. You have a choice to have us educate your child, and we would have to fund it. By you choosing to not do that, we are saving lots of money. I would love to see some of those funds be returned to you as a taxpaying citizen so that to help you in educating your child.
Yeah, that's so exciting to me. Of course, there is plenty of work to do as we anticipate 2023, but I don't feel like we can ever sleep on the job here. I will admit that, because it feels like as soon as you kind of get comfortable, something else is coming. We're looking for something else to happen. So there really isn't any space to put our feet up and just take a break. So it's exciting to be looking forward to that. I think we can end on that note. I want to thank you so much for taking the time and sharing, and I'm sure we will be talking soon and continuing this good work together. So officially, thank you for being part of the transformation of K-12 education in the Mountain State and for talking with us today. I hope you have a great afternoon.